Afternoon, councillors and staff. It's just gone 4:30, so I'll open the meeting. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on today, paying my respects to the people of the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal people and their elders past, present and emerging. Next item on the agenda is housekeeping. The two councillors and staff in the building. We exit to the right and then out to the front of the building on the footpath. Next item is the fact that this meeting has been live streamed and recorded. So what that means is attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. And I pass that on to the people that are speaking in open forum. You're also recorded live, so people need to be cautious and thoughtful about what they say in that forum. Which brings me to public forum, item 3.2. Councillors, we have a number of speakers today in public forum. And the first one to speak in regard to the LEP is Sophie Fernan. I hope that's how you say it, Sophie. You there?
Hello.
Hi there. And
hi.
All speakers in public forum are given 5 minutes. And if you get to the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a little indication that you've got a minute remaining and go from there. But welcome.
Thank
All
you.
Yours.
Thanks everyone for your time this afternoon. My name is Sophie. I'm a chartered accountant from Wagga and I started working at Grove Estate Wines in Young about 2 months ago. I would like to speak about the Hilltops LEP, in particular changing the sizes of the RU4 24 hectare zones to RU4 2 hectare zones outside of Young and including Grove Estate. We see considerable strategic merit to this proposal, and I would like to use this time to explain why. Firstly, there is demand for 5-acre blocks. We are in an unusual time in which Australia's regional housing market has far outpaced price growth across capital cities. We can put this down to flexible working arrangements driven by COVID, desires for the benefits of a country lifestyle, affordability of housing compared to the cities. This is already playing out in the Hilltops where we've seen a jump in house prices. We need to meet demand in Young to keep housing affordable. If people are spending all their money on their mortgage or rent, they're not spending it on cups of coffee or down the street. And one of the solutions is increasing supply. Secondly, smaller blocks around Young would create the conditions to emulate the success of our neighbours such as Wagga. A generation of doctors such as Dr. Carroll, Dr. Bailey, Dr. Zammit, Dr. Lawrence all bought 5-acre blocks and stayed in Wagga for many years. 5-acre or 2-hectare blocks allow the benefits of a country lifestyle to be realised, such as ample space from neighbours or a tennis court or pool, without the onerous demands of larger properties. Changing from RU4 24 hectares to RU4 2 hectares creates wealth, allowing landowners to borrow against a more valuable asset base. This provides opportunities for further growth. We have no interest in creating eyesores. We want to preserve and grow the beauty of our vineyard, and we want to attract more people to enjoy it. The Hilltops LEP that has been put forward for endorsement contains the recommendation that items raised during the consultation period be noted. One of these items is a further review of RU4 and R5 land surrounding Young. Smaller 2-hectare blocks would be a foundation for future growth. The current zoning of the property neutralises the potential of this land. We've had multiple conversations with council planners about this. They have attributed the current variable lot sizes in RU4 to historical land use, and they've cited the lack of soil mapping from DPI, delayed by several years, and likely to be delayed for just as many more, preventing them from determining the best use of the land. People from the Hilltops know what is best. We don't have any interest in diminishing the value of our land. We don't want eyesores. We do want conditions in which Young can provide wonderful places to live for old and new residents and with beautiful places to visit. Therefore, we support any proposal to delay the submission of the LEP to address the recommendation to change zoning from RU4 24 hectares to RU4 2 hectares. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Sophie. The next speaker in public forum is a representative from CauseMag, Adita. Are you there? You're speaking on the LEP also.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ingram. I'm just starting our video. Can you hear us and see us?
We can hear you now. We can't see you, but we can hear you. And speaking in public forum, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. And when you get to the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a little warning. But you're welcome to start whenever you're ready to go. Can't hear you at all now. You there, CauseMag? Technology. Fantastic when it works. Troublesome when it doesn't. Yes, you've got you there?
Yeah, sir, my apologies. I was just disconnected for a minute. Thank you once again for giving us an opportunity to present at the public forum. Mr. Mayor, councillors, senior staff, we note that after having considered our zoning for over 8 years, Council is now ready to send the LEP to the state government for approval. However, within the LEP is a proposed rezoning of our land. That rezoning will most likely wipe out millions of dollars every year of economic contribution to the economy of Hilltops Council. However, that can be prevented by you. Today, we urge you to zone our land as industrial and complete a process which has been pending since before 2010. In April of that year, all 9 councillors voted to prevent any rezoning impact on CauseMag by maintaining and not changing any zoning. That decision was taken by the councillors specifically to keep CauseMag open and not shut down a business operating for over 6 decades. Over many years, we have worked tirelessly to revive what was a sick industry at a time where most other major industrial businesses in Young became bankrupt. We also voluntarily upgraded our dust emissions control systems last year without any commercial gain to reduce our emissions. That occurred after going through a very long and thorough development application process. Last week, we had a slight breakdown which has been
I think we just had another breakdown.
Good. Adita, they're suggesting to me to leave the video off and just use your... He's there? Yeah, he's there. If our connection now, he's there now, so you there? You there? You got no audio.
Hello?
Yep. Continue on while we got you, please.
Yes, Mayor. Mayor, did you lose our connection?
We did, Dita, what might help is turn off your visual. Every councillor has now seen you, and it might help the bandwidth if you just use your audio.
Sir, I've just turned my video off. Can you hear me loud and
Yes,
clear?
we can. Thank you. Just please proceed with your presentation.
Yes, sir. So I'll continue. So in April of 2010, all 9 councillors voted to prevent any rezoning impact on COSMAC by maintaining and not changing any zoning. That decision was taken specifically to keep COSMAC open.
Look, I'm very sorry. I just don't know how much longer we can work with this operation not working, and we've got a lot of speakers. Okay, it's a bit unfortunate, Adita, but you're having trouble with the connection there. I think most of the councillors get the gist of what you're referring to, and I'm pretty sure you've contacted all councillors previous and prior to the meeting, so I'm pretty sure they're all aware, I most certainly am, of your concerns. But at this stage, I'm going to call it as it is for the moment and move on to the next speaker. So thank you. The next speaker in open forum is Anne Barton, also speaking in relation to the LEP. Are you there, Anne?
Can you hear me?
You there, Anne?
It's Nathan here with Anne. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Nathan, yes.
I can't get the video working because the host has disabled the video.
Well, the main thing is we can hear you, and you get 5 minutes to speak in open forum, and okay. I'll give you a little warning bell at 4 minutes if you reach that point, but quite happy to go with the video, with the audio, sorry. Okay, all councillors can hear it, Nathan? Yep. Yep, thank you.
My name is Nathan, and I'm here with my mother, Anne. We would like to speak against the motion to adopt the amended planning proposal. The aim of the new LEP, according to Council, is to harmonise the 3 existing LEPs and to provide, and I quote, consistent planning controls across the whole of the Hilltops region, including zone use permissibility. Now, we maintain this has not been achieved, and the current iteration of the LEP should therefore not be supported by the elected councillors. Let me provide an example. In the RU4 zones around Young, you have a common situation where on one side of the road, you can have 12 dwellings on 24 hectares of land. However, on the other side of the road, on the same amount of land, with the same soil mapping, the same road access, the same services, you can have just 1 dwelling. That's 12 potential dwellings on one side of the road and 1 dwelling on the other. Same amount of land, same soil mapping, same everything. That is not what we classify as consistent planning controls across the whole local government area. So where did this 24 hectare minimum lot size come from? It came from a previous report from Council that specified that 24 hectares was the minimum lot size you needed for a commercially viable agricultural pursuit. Now, let me add that in the 24 hectare zones, you have a large percentage of titles that are significantly less than 24 hectares. You have lots that are 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, and 12 hectares. That is significantly less than the minimum size that councillors specify that you need for a commercially viable enterprise in this zone. To add to this, the Elton study, also commissioned by Council, identified that there are moderate to severe agricultural limitations in much of the RU4 land where the 24 hectare minimum lot size applies. This land is therefore not for reserving as food bowl land. In summary, Council have said that you need a minimum of 24 hectares of land to make a living off the RU4 24 hectare land zones. However, much of the land in these areas has moderate to severe soil limitations, Many of the titles are significantly smaller than 24 hectares and must be combined with multiple titles, which is not economically viable. Furthermore, there is this inequity, an arbitrary boundary between 2 hectare RU4 zones and 24 hectare RU4 zones. These conditions do not result in consistent planning controls and zone use permissibility. They result in land use conflicts and land that is not being efficiently used. We maintain, as we have done through the entire consultation process, that there needs to be a rethink of the RU4 zones so that each and every piece of land in this zone can be put to its most productive use, whether that be for lifestyle block or for commercial farm. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nathan. Okay, that takes me to the next speaker we have tonight, who is Justin Milo, I'll say it that way, and he's speaking for the motion in regarding the 3 quarry items. You there, Justin?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can. Justin, you'll get 5 minutes to speak in open forum, and I'll give you, if you get to the 4-minute bell, I'll give you a little warning there.
Thank you very much. So thank you, Mayor Ingram and councillors for your time this afternoon. My name's Justin Malayo. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for Australian Resource Development Group. We're an independent, privately owned resource development business that has expertise in quarry resource identification, assessment and planning approvals. And our expertise also extends to securing and developing on-site or near-site quarry resources to supply and deliver cost savings to major infrastructure projects since 2016. We're currently seeking planning approval for 5 on-site or near-site quarries to supply construction materials only to the Rye Park wind farm. 3 of those quarries are in the Hilltops council area and 2 of them are in the Yass local government area. 3 of those 5 quarry sites are located within the footprint of the project area of the Rye Park wind farm, and 2 of them are located just outside. 2 of the quarry sites that are located just outside of the Hilltops, located in the Hilltops LGA, which are just outside of the wind farm project area on Dalton Road, would be supplying material to the public road upgrade works required prior to the commencement of the Rye Park wind farm construction, as well as the internal earthwork requirements of the Rye Park wind farm. The proposed quarries are relatively small in size, similar to a council borrow pit, which you'll probably be familiar with. They would crush and screen materials for a relatively short period of time, around about 8 weeks a year, over the time frame of the construction period of the wind farm. Each quarry would have the capability to produce the full range of products required by the wind farm project, for example, road base, road capping, and concrete aggregates. None of the quarries are located closer to within 1 kilometre of any residence, and they've been assessed as having a minimal and manageable impacts regarding noise and dust and biodiversity. I just note that the BRAE quarry, which is one of the quarries located off Dalton Road, just outside the project area, was modelled to have a minor noise exceedance with respect to a residence 1.3 kilometres to the south, and that is able to be managed by construction of a noise barrier to mitigate that noise impact, which the EPA has accepted as a reasonable and feasible measure to mitigate that noise impact. Very importantly, all trucks that would transport materials from the quarries to the wind farm and to the council road upgrade works, those truck movements are already approved as construction traffic under the State Significant Development Rye Park Wind Park approval. So it's really important to note that the quarries are not going to create any additional truck movements on the approved transport route, construction transport route for the wind farm. And in actual fact, they're going to significantly reduce the overall construction traffic of the Rye Park wind farm given that 60% of construction traffic for the Rye Park Wind Farm was allocated to transporting quarry materials to the project from outside the area. So the supply of materials from these on-site or near-site quarries would reduce the total distance that would otherwise be travelled on the local and regional road networks by around 93 to 94%. That's tens of thousands of truck movements that are taken off the local and regional road network.
You've got a minute left. About a minute to go, Justin.
Yeah, 1 minute, did you say, sorry?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just about to finish. So the resultant significant reduction in transportation of quarry products required by the wind farm would have significant flow-on benefits to the broader community, including improved road safety to the local regional road network, reduced damage to the roads, and improved local amenity through reduction in trucks and reduction in noise impacts. So I just commend these DAs to Council for their consideration, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Justin. The next speaker we have is Michael Howe, speaking against the motion on all three quarries. Are you there, Michael?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you and welcome, and the same applies. You get 5 minutes in the open forum, and I'll give you a little warning, shout out if you get to the 4 minute mark. So
okay.
all yours, Michael.
Great, thanks. I think I'll leave the camera off because we're pretty unstable here as well. So, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Councillor and GM, as you know, my name is Michael Howe, and this afternoon I'm talking to you and for good order against Council's recommendation to grant consents to three apparently unrelated quarries, proposing to produce up to 30,000 cubic metres per annum per quarry to supply.
Sorry, Michael, we've lost you. Having trouble again, Michael.
Maybe you should log in again.
We're just going to try a bit of technology through the phone. Councillors, just bear with us for 2 seconds or a minute.
Yeah,
sorry, guys.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 tick.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, turn the mic off on the Zoom.
Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
Everyone's off.
Everyone's off. I'll have to turn the volume off too. Have you, yeah, do you want to try again, Michael? Sorry?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, cool. Okay. Look, I'll start over, but I'll try and speed it up a little bit. Okay. So, yeah, my name's Michael Howe, and this afternoon I'm talking to and for good order against Council's recommendation to grant consents to three apparently unrelated quarries proposing to produce up to 30,000 cubic metres per annum per quarry to supply the Rye Park Wind Farm project. I'd usually not waste my time on introductions when I only have 5 minutes to talk about a topic, but I felt it necessary given the proponent of the three very much related quarries stated in their submission that the closest quarry is located in Queanbeyan, some 175 kilometres away from the project site. It's been one of the reasons to promote new project greenfield quarries. For anyone who was unaware, my wife and I are the owners and directors of Glenola Quarry, located in the north of the Hilltops Shire, and co-owners and directors of the Bogo Quarry, located in the Yass Valley Shire. Both quarries are basically equal distance from the project sites, approximately 100 kilometres away, and two of the three shires that are a party to this development. It's taken us nearly 15 years to identify our resource, get it permitted, and develop it to a point where we could successfully supply a large generational project in our local LGA, such as the Rye Park Wind Farm. The regulatory compliance burden and rigour that Glenelg has matriculated through at no small cost, including significant contributions to external road upgrades, has been substantial for a small local Indigenous business. In this instance, the sole proponent has managed to circumvent the same compliance and regulatory burden, not to mention the associated costs of such. By stating the quarries are not related, by keeping each quarry at 30,000 cubic metres per annum and below, by keeping the site disturbance at 2 hectares so as not to trigger in-depth biodiversity assessments, and stating that development costs are less than $100,000, avoiding developer contributions. Put this in perspective, the combined output of the 3 proposed quarries is the same as Glenelg. Instead of being required to produce an EIS, what has been produced, the quarry's due diligence documents, is nothing more than a desktop study. The proponent has stated their submission that trucks will be taken off the road. This is not factual, as trucks will still be needed to utilise the local road networks, even if they're travelling a lesser distance. It's been stated that a registered weighbridge will not be required for the quarry operations. The council is to be relying on topographical surveys for tonnages produced and supplied. Will individual dockets be required of the operators for each load being supplied to the project? Will dockets be timestamped to ensure that no more than 4 trucks exit per hour as per the conditions imposed on the proponent? Has the council considered the chain of responsibility implications if a truck goes out the gate overloaded and by some terrible scenario there was an incident? Has council denied the proponent the ability to potentially bring in or import materials onto their quarry sites to meet potentially rigorous product specifications if they can't meet it with the localised material in their designated pits? It has also been stated that it is anticipated that production will be campaign-based, lasting only 8 weeks. Is this a firm condition or for 8-week production period once a year? In closing, council identifies there may be local businesses that could supply the project, but isn't a planning criteria that council needs to consider in assessing the application. I'd suggest this may be at odds with one of the points in the LEP charter that identifies encouraging sustainable economic growth within Boorowa, or maybe the LSPS facilitate growth of existing Boorowa businesses. Whilst we're more than open to competition, we believe there should be a level playing field of some sort. What we have here is a proponent that has worked the system and that will not deliver anything of substance for the community beyond a few part-time jobs for 6 months of the year over a 2-year project period. We think it's important that we defend our position and that other local businesses that could potentially be shut out of large generational projects such as the Rye Park Wind Farm. We're an established local business that's been paying rates in the Shire and contributing to the broader community for the past 15 years and most likely the next 30 and beyond. The proponents may bring part-time employment, not guaranteed to be filled by a local, for a short duration, but we would argue that the council should be looking at recognising the long-term benefits of holding local resources as opposed to a sugar hit from the project proponent or the project proponent. Thank you all for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for that, Michael. The next speaker we have in public forum is Julie Hearn, and against the motion of the Eden BRAE quarry. Julie, are you there?
I am here.
Welcome. You have 5 minutes to speak in open forum, and if you get to the 4-minute mark, I'll give you a little warning there that you've got about a minute left. So the floor's all yours, Julie.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and councillors. On behalf of my family and our neighbours, I would like to put forward our concerns for the proposed Eden BRAE quarry being built for the purpose of the Rye Park Wind Farm construction, even though we know that the companies involved are not associated. Not only are we dejected about the initial lack of communication from ARDG and Hilltops Council, as the first we knew of it came from the neighbouring quarry host, we have many concerns about the impact of this quarry on our livelihoods over the next 2 to 3 years. Where do I begin? Blasting. Maybe this is going to be a one-off. Who knows? We haven't been told. Even so, the noise will continue over the life of the wind farm construction. We presume this will include the crushing plant, excavators moving gravel and loading trucks, trucks transporting gravel to the construction sites and coming back for reloading. The operations of the quarry are supposedly going to be for 8 weeks per year for a period of at least 2 years, 6 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We do wonder if this is 8 weeks per year in total for this and the other 2 quarries that are proposed, or if this is going to be 8 weeks per quarry per year, something we have also not been told. If it is 8 weeks per quarry, that means we are going to be subjected to the impact for a total of 48 weeks over a 2-year period. There is the cumulative effect that we will be subjected to as well, as we personally also have a cement batching plant and the main site office for the wind farm 1 kilometre from our house and a major access road 300 metres away, not to mention the other 2 quarries nearby. We have also heard rumours of a 4th quarry named as FAIRBURN Quarry 2, which would only be 800 metres from our back door. We hope this doesn't mean we will go from living in a rural zoned area into what will be classed as an industrial zone. We also have major concerns about the dust from the quarry and the effect the dust and noise is going to have on our stock, with our boundary alone being only 250 metres away from the quarry. None of us have huge properties and therefore can't be moving stock and lambing ewes away from the neighbouring paddocks. Some of us in the immediate vicinity of this quarry were eventually contacted by ARDG to advise of the project and the noise level associated with the operation. We don't believe that their independent noise level predictions that will affect us are a true indication of the actual noise pollution we will encounter over the course of the development. An example they have given us is noise will be, and I quote, somewhere between a library and a quiet dishwasher. Hard to believe. Maybe this is why they wanted us to enter into a simple agreement to allow noise levels to exceed the limits at times. There was also some mention by ARDG to a neighbour of possible structural damage to a dwelling during blasting. This is a major concern, as we have not had this communicated to us, and yes, we live in a house too. We do wonder why there are no quarries proposed for the northern end of the project. We are well aware of the fact that we personally had a council quarry known as Mills Pit operating on our property. Operation of this quarry ceased in 2013, and we feel that the proposed BRAE quarry cannot be compared to the Mills Pit, as there was never any blasting or rock crushing undertaken, and operations did not take place for any more than a couple of weeks at a time, sometimes years apart. We also believe that this quarry benefited the whole community, as it was only used for the upkeep of the gravel roads and the eventual sealing of the roads. In conclusion, we can't stress enough how strongly we object to this proposal going ahead at the named site, and sadly we feel as though this is a total waste of our time, as we have already voiced our concerns to council via submissions to no avail. Surely we will have enough disruption to our lives with a main site office, cement batching plant and major access road with thousands of truck movements next door.
We've got a minute to go.
No worries. Without a quarry being added to that mix. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon.
Thank you very much for that, Julie. Councillor, if you just might give me 2 seconds. I have to take a phone call from a constituent and I'll be back in 2 seconds. Thank you, councillors, for indulging me there. I just had a speaker who spoke wanting to go over it again, and I've declined that invitation. So now the last speaker we have tonight is Adrian Harris, who's speaking against the Barrackville quarry. Adrian, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Welcome, Adrian. You've got 5 minutes in open forum, and I'll give you a little warning shout at the 4 minute mark if you reach that. The floor's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, Ingram, councillors and guests. I'm wanting to speak against the motion for the 3 quarry items, particularly I'll just turn this volume down here for a bit. The quarrying of materials and the movement of trucks through Yass Street, Rye Park. I want to list some foreseeable problems associated with using our main street for continuous heavy traffic associated with the construction of the Rye Park wind farm. Firstly, there are only 4 intersections in Yass Street. As it's a key intersection, access to Yass Street at BOOROWA intersection lacks good visibility, and this could become a black spot for collisions. Second, Tilt's figures, original estimates before gravel contracts were arranged, stated that there would be about 68,000 truck movements in the street over 2 years, and I believe from memory that works out to be a minimum of around 30 loaded truck movements through per day for 6 days per week. That doesn't take into consideration the noisy unloaded truck returns. Please correct me if I have that incorrect. If major upgrades are not carried out to strengthen the road, it will not stand up under the weight of this amount of repetitive truck movements, and excessive noise will pose a big problem to locals living in the street, most of whom are elderly and who suffer from sleep and health problems, requiring them to find sleep during the day, time hours. For instance, my wife, we live on Rye Park, Yass Street. For instance, my wife suffers from long-term chronic pain and infirmity from multiple surgeries, which also has to severely affect her mobility, so she is in this category. Because my wife has a chronic and debilitating pain, she is often able to sleep throughout the night and requires daytime naps. We moved here 6 years ago from Sydney environs, attracted by the quiet, safe environment here that she so desperately needs. And we purchased our current property and home, assured we would be able to enjoy a peaceful and safe environment in our retiring years. She's recently applied to her doctor for an appointment to seek a doctor's certificate to that effect to be made available to whom it may concern. At our age, it is not an option to move away for financial and for age and health reasons. The third point is disruption and destruction of our village facilities and environment. Tilt Renewables has stated in their literature that, well, they have stated anyway, that if trees which have been planted in the street by locals are a problem to them, they will just be pulled out. And a spokesperson for Tilt simply said, so be it. Those people who have spent many, many hours of work in setting up what is here, for instance, planting trees and caring for them over many years, would be very disappointed and disheartened, don't you think? There's another question. Will the roads which are upgraded be checked regularly and their condition maintained over the expected 2 years of truck movements? And is there any guarantee that they will be returned to good condition afterwards? Fourth point. Under such a prolonged heavy vehicle schedule, access to driveways with so much traffic will be very difficult and hazardous, considering a barrage of trucks with dog trailers up and down the main street. As often with bridge approaches, will there appear subsidence and disturbed services at the approach and departure of the dip, located roughly in the centre of Yass Street, making that dip area hazardous for smaller, lighter passenger vehicles. In Yass Street, we have the local post office where people park to collect their mail, a school bus and bus stop further up the street, the Soldiers Memorial Hall at the top of the hill, and then the school a bit further up the street at the most southern intersection. Local residents and visitors to our previously quiet and safe little town daily and often walk the streets for exercise, to enjoy the atmosphere and to visit neighbours. In addition to the residential traffic, out-of-town traffic also accesses the Rye Park garbage skip via another relatively busy intersection on Yass Street.
Sorry to interrupt, Adrian. You've got about a minute left. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does that mean I have 1 more minute?
That's exactly what it means, yep.
Okay, thank you. So via Bank Street intersection. So logically, may we ask then, who takes legal responsibility if and when accidents happen in this area, caused or complicated by the presence of this extra heavy vehicular traffic with its long and large loads? Is it Tilt Renewables, host landholders, or Hilltops Council? In conclusion, based on our personal concerns and the comments of our neighbours, others of similar age and older, living on Yass Street or in close proximity, they also expect they will suffer degradation of their health and quality of life and will face considerably greater risk of vehicular collisions. Do those involved in the organisation and daily running of these vehicle operations using our main street over such a long period propose to offer any actions in order to avoid or offset or remedy such problems as have been discussed in this address? Thank you to all for giving me your time and consideration.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Okay, councillors, that brings to the close speakers in public forum. The next item on our agenda is attendance and apologies. We have a full house. There's no apologies tonight at all. The next item on the agenda is the expressions of sympathy. Could we all be upstanding, please? Could we please have a moment's silence for the following, please? Georgina Hurley, Eric Bell, Vilma Parkinson, John Mackin, Irene Britt, Alan Braddon, Clive Hardy, Mercer Mayer, Carol Eldridge, Jason O'Leary, Kenneth Richards, Barbara Sargent, Shirley Hemmon, Wayne Mayhay, Frederick Jones, Kenneth Murphy, Sister Mavis Hanlon, Jeanette Glenn, and Ronald Perkins. Thank you, everyone. Okay, takes us on to item 6, which is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held in June, 23rd of June 21. I have a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Rolls. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. The next item is the confirmation of the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 30th of June. A mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Wallace. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest tonight? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just reference to the items in the heritage part of the local environmental plan, the 3 buildings that I own that are mentioned there. So I'm disclosing a insignificant non-pecuniary interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Flannery.
Likewise, Mr. Mayor, I have, I think there's 2 buildings in the local environment plan that are listed. Also in the DA section, and it's incorrectly listed, but there's a shed listed as Nanguella, Cunningar Road. It should actually be on the property Middleton. That's a shed that I put a DA in for.
Thank you, Councillor. No other disclosures. Thank you for that. Staff got them noted. Yep. Thank you. There's no mayoral minute. The mayoral report and the mayor's diary is there, councillors. Just to receive a note of a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Manchester and Councillor Wallace, thank you. All those in favour. I will just touch before I go on for that. I did tune in. I was a bit late getting in there, for about 5 minutes to the Travelling Stock Reserve webinar, and I don't know who else was on there, but I never found out any more encouraging information than we found out when we actually met with them here. So I didn't know whether that was a great achievement by them or not. But anyway, we'll go on to councillors.
Mr Mayor, just on that, I was an attendee at the webinar, and I was surprised to say they've had extensive conversations with councils regarding this matter and seeking council support. That wasn't my understanding of what's been happening.
Mine neither, councillor. So we'll move on to councillor reports. Item 21.132, and we have some reports there from Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Horton, Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Rolls. If any of those councillors like to speak to any of those, or just happy for them to be put up. Happy for them to be put up. Do we receive and note those councillor reports? Before I do that, I'll go around the councillors who aren't included there. Councillor Walker.
Meetings as minuted.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Manchester.
Minutes, meetings that are minuted, and the workshop last week, the 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Same as Councillor Manchester, the meetings that were minuted, the extraordinary meeting and the LEP briefing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stadmiller.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I had a meeting with the General Manager and a constituent regarding issues that they had with Council, and meetings as minuted. Thanks.
Thank you. Have I got everyone?
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Flannery, yep.
Meetings as minuted, and then the two councillor exhibition, the post-LEP exhibition workshops. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we've got everyone. Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder for those councillor reports, please? Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Stadmiller. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to Community Recognition Scheme. Does anyone have anyone for that? If not, councillors, what I will do now is I will seek council to move a motion to bring the two items that were spoke about in public forum forward on the order of our agenda, and that would be the matter of the LEP and the matter of the quarry. And three quarries, sorry, yeah. Moved Councillor Walker, thank you. Seconded Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Okay, councillors, we go to item, the first one was item 21.137, 21.138 and 21.139, which is the quarries, which are on page. What page was that, councillor?
Mr Mayor, if I would like to move a deferral on the motions, if I can get a seconder, and then I'll give my reasons for a deferral, to defer all three as a bulk, please.
Sounds Councillor Manchester seconding that. That correct? Councillor Manchester second that. Councillor Flannery, back to you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, noting, look, the extraneous reports that have been presented, although I note there's really one report presented 3 times. And I do share some of the concerns of the opponents. I believe that the quarries are being put up for the purpose of flying under the radar, and that's quite within their rights. But I don't believe it adequately, as a result, they don't adequately address a number of concerns that I have, and I think some of the local residents. I don't believe the issue around truck movements through Rye Park is adequately addressed. I note that it is a traffic route for 2 of the quarries, but another one, or one, and it's noted as contingency for the others. I believe that if council is going to consider and approve this at a future meeting, we need traffic counters put on the routes so that we know what volumes are going down what routes, because from my reading of the reports, there is no traffic routes for any particular quarry, and it doesn't detail where quarry materials are going to with regard to the various portions of the wind farm. I believe the dust suppression is not adequate. I believe that Section 94 contributions would otherwise be paid on these quarry materials if it had been one quarry, and in essence it is one quarry, 3 different locations. And I believe that's a gross discourtesy to the council, that we will be wearing the cost of the truck movements and a wind farm development, I think 60 wind farms. It'll be in the order of $150 million, and we're not getting one brass razoo out of this. Truck movements in and around the schools, I note, have been quarantined outside the drop-off periods of the school, but that says nothing about the noise levels for students and teachers trying to deal with the truck movements during school hours. I think that needs to be addressed more adequately. So for those reasons, I think we need to defer this, and I think a far more extensive report needs to come back. If not, it should be aggregated as one DA. I think it's within Council's means to consider it as one DA and Section 94 considered.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Now, Councillor Flannery's moved to deferral of the matter and spoke for it. Is any councillor who would like to speak against it? Take that as a no. Okay, we have a motion to defer the matter to a later meeting from Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Manchester. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. That was unanimous. All hands up. Yep. Thank you, councillors. Yep. Thank you.
Can I have a question?
Councillor Walker, depends what on.
Well, in what form does that take? It says it's been deferred, but on what criteria?
I didn't hear what the question was. On what grounds is it deferred? It's deferred on the reasons that Councillor Flannery put up and was seconded by Councillor Manchester, and we just all voted on. I presume you voted for it?
But I can't see a clear direction
Well, the matter,
or in what format will that come back in?
Well, the matter's been dealt with and it will come back to council at the next meeting. Thank you. Ta. Okay, councillors, that takes us to the other item that was dealt with in public forum, which is item 21.142, which is on page 846, and this time it is I. If I get a second, I will be seeking to have this matter deferred to next month's council meeting. There's seconders everywhere. I've got seconders. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. And then I'll just speak briefly on why I think that should happen. And before I do, I'd like to commend and really congratulate all the staff that are involved in this matter. Bryson, David, Claire, Andrew, all the staff that worked so hard to get this to tonight, because prior to the weekend, this was our meeting to deal with it. But because of situations out of our control and implemented by the state, we will not be going into caretaker mode next month. So that enables council to deal with this matter at our next council meeting. I gave it great thought, and we all know the size of the document. The ins and outs of the document are very complicated, and I thought it would be remiss of us as councillors if we didn't give ourselves the opportunity to take another month to thoroughly get our head around that document, and also to seek out the questions and answers from staff in that month. So when we get to our council meeting next month, any queries councillors might have in regard to any particular submission can hopefully be dealt with, and they have a clear information stream when they come to council meeting. I just want to make sure everyone's clear and understands this is not a extension of period for people to put submissions in. Submissions have closed. This is a period for councillors to take the opportunity of an extra month to ensure that they've got a full understanding of the documents that will come before us at our next meeting. So thank you for that, councillors. Anyone want to speak against that? No. Councillor Armstrong speaking against.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to speak against the motion. The reason I'm speaking against it is that I think that this basically comes down to an RU4 versus R5 debate. If I look back at the objectives of the zones, an RU4 zone is significantly different to an R5. The potential for conflict between land uses with RU4 where a dwelling is created and other sorts of agriculture is significant. I think that the R5 zone, its primary objective is to create large blocks for dwellings. The RU4 is not, doesn't have as its objective the creation of smaller allotments for homes and dwellings. So I think that really this deferral isn't going to resolve the issue, which is at the core of the debate. Thank you.
take on board your thoughts, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Flannery, speak for.
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. I'd like to speak for the deferral. Look, I'd like to second your comments with regard to the work the staff have put in. They've put a huge amount of work in and we've all spent a lot of hours going through it. But as we all know, we were, I wouldn't say rushing, but we've spent the last 4 weeks having workshops to deal with the submissions and get them all down. The fact that we now do have another month to consider these, I think should be utilised. I think there are our 2040 document, future planning document, I believe could be incorporated in the LEP more extensively than it has been. And I think given the submissions we've received, we now have time to go back, see if we can incorporate the visionary document. It's regrettable the state government planning agencies haven't got back with the agricultural mapping, but I think, as I made the point in a workshop, it's unlikely they'll be back with it before the next round of LEPs. So we need to ignore that, make decisions for this Hilltops area and take the time to consider them.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Does anyone else want to speak against it? Councillor Wallace, did you want to speak for or saw your hand up?
Yeah, look, I concur with pretty much what Councillor Flannery said. I don't think we as a council can stand behind the state government's failures, and I think we need to act and to simply use mapping as a reason not to provide answers on the RU4 area, but also RU1 zoning sizes, I think a little bit pusillanimous, and I think we ought to get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion of deferral of the LEP. All those in favour? That is 9, and against? Councillor Armstrong is against. That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. So that takes us on to the next item. I'll just change the books back around. 21-133 is the first item on the General Manager's report. It's the cash and investment report. The report's there, councillors, and the recommendation. Moved, Councillor Manchester. Seconded, Councillor Horton. Any questions, comments? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 21-134, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report. Councillors, there's a report there and a recommendation to receive and note the report. Moved, Councillor Wallace. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Flannery, I think. Thank you. Question? Councillor Armstrong.
In regard to the sale of land front paid rates, I note that there's once again there is over $1.3 million that is overdue 2 to 5 or between 2 and 5 years and greater than 5 years. What efforts have been made to date in regard to this to the sale of land front paid rates?
I'll pass to the Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we've identified so far 24 properties that have been referred through to the collection agent that is handling the sale of land. Process has started and we're continuing to identify any more properties as we come across them.
Mr. Mayor, we did ask for a report in this regard some number of months ago. When will we get that report?
We'll have a report at next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've been assured by staff that will be coming forward next month, so thank you, staff.
Question.
Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar question to Councillor Armstrong. We've got 551,000, half a million more than, over 5 years. And I'm wondering again what action we're taking. I guess that was just answered by the Director. Another question. The last meeting I asked for the following: how much has been retrieved by the debt collectors and how much does it cost us?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all that's been retrieved through the debt collectors is fully recoverable and uncharged back to the debtors. This stage, I'll have to confirm and come back to you the total amount that we have actually brought back in.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll look forward to that information being provided at next month's meeting. Do I have any other questions in regard to the report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 21135 is a development application stats for June 2021. Councillors are there, and there's a recommendation to receive and note the reports. Move, Councillor Manchester. Seconded. Another hand. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Any question, Councillor Connery?
Can I just ensure that change to, I don't know which one it is, but it's listed as Nanguel in the property name. It's actually Middleton. Correct.
It's been noted by staff and will be changed, Councillor. Okay, any other questions on that? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 21136 is a DA and a subdivision of 5 lots into 7 and tree removal. There's a report there, councillors, in front of us, and the recommendation is to grant consent to the development application, generally in accordance with the conditions of consent. Mover, Councillor Manchester and Councillor Walker moved and seconded. Thank you. Any questions in regard to that item? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? All those in favour? Unanimous. Just a bit slow off the mark here. Thank you, councillors. 21137 is one of the quarries we've dealt with. So we go to page where? Help.
We go to 826.
Page 826 in the next.
So your second page.
I'll just change my volume, councillors, that's all. What is it? 826.
Mr. Mayor, it might be worth for anyone who is actually watching holding up the volumes we had to deal with for this council meeting. I'm sure they'd love to see what.
It's about two old white pages worth, I believe, would be the measure.
Okay.
I won't comment on which was more interesting to read.
The next report we'll be dealing with, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is 21140 then? Yeah. The draft Hilltop Council roadside vegetation management policy. There's a report there and a recommendation. Do I have a mover and a second to start with? Move, Councillor Rolls.
I've lost what page we're up to.
Page 826 on your second volume.
Got it, thank you.
So I've got a mover and a seconder.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Flannery.
There's a few aspects that I note on the page 833. It says collection of firewood or felling of dead standing trees is prohibited. It's something that I struggle with because it's one of the things that blocks up all our drains, this prohibition. We used to have for a long while periods when collection of firewood was open, and now it seems that it's been closed off completely. Could we be advised why collection of firewood is prohibited?
Is the Director of Infrastructure there?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The provisions of the collection of firewood is part of the act that has been provided in the report. And the intention of tonight for these two papers is that it goes out for public consultation and an exhibition for 28 days. And all commentary around that can be returned back to council, and it will be noted and provided back to council in terms of the questions. So it is part of that provision of the Environment Act. So that's where that clause, which is clause 14, is being included.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the Director of Infrastructure, it's clear within that clause 14 that we are governed by Section 629, Parts 1 and 2 of the Local Government Act and the Protection of Environmental Operations Act. That's what governs the determination of those restrictions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Given we'll be providing feedback, line number 9, I might give some feedback now. Customer requests that identify trees that are considered a public potential risk. I've been informed by livestock carriers that they've informed council of trees that are a risk and their trucks have hit them and nothing's been done about it. And they've made comparisons to Yassshire where tree branches have been removed. And line number 12 or item number 12, no landholder or contractor is permitted to plough, scarify or disturb roadside vegetation to carry out any form of weed control. I've certainly carried out weed control of noxious weeds outside my boundary because council does nothing about it.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone like to respond in regard to the matter about dangerous trees with stock carriers? I've had the same issue raised with me several times, so I don't know if staff are aware of it, but they tell me they report it to council and the same result, nothing much happens. So I'm not going to hold staff to talk to it. I just wanted to mention that Councillor Flannery's not the only person that's been mentioned to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll ensure that we follow up what is the process. Thank you.
Question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question to the responsible person. The weed side poisoning, are we using Roundup at all?
I'll throw it to the General Manager.
Through you,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a trial of different types of chemicals used. The actual specific of Roundup, I believe we still may use it in certain areas, but as per the local government plan, local government act, we have to do a pesticide notification plan and we must adhere to that under it. So, but I can provide a more detail of all the chemicals that we may have in our chemical register and where they're used and when they're used.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Any other further questions, Councillor Flannery?
Yes, again, item number 7, and I probably won't get an answer now, but offset tree planting and vegetation, it notes where trees are removed as 2-for-1 planting. Council approved removal of 600 trees on Gaylong Road as part of that road upgrade. Could council staff please take on notice to provide council with details of where the replanting has occurred? I'm not aware of it.
Thanks for that, Councillor Flannery. I'm not too sure if anyone on staff can give you the answer to that today or tomorrow. But anyway, it's been noted, so we'll see what comes back with. That point taken. Any further questions in regard to that policy before I put it? No? Okay, well, I'll put that policy to go out on exhibition. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. The next one is 21141. It's a draft Hilltops Council Urban Tree Management Policy. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Is it moved?
I'll move for discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Move. Do we get a seconder? Councillor Walker, thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do note that this particular proposed policy is at odds with the previous policy that the council's resolved to put out on an exhibition in regard to clause 10 in particular. The previous policy provides for a customer request to be made, and then that customer request would be reviewed in line with policy and various other procedures. But in this particular policy, it appears as though there's no such option for a customer. So I'd like to suggest that 10 be removed entirely and replaced with words similar to those words used in the previous roadside vegetation policy, being clause 9 in the previous policy. So replace clause 10 with clause 9 from the previous policy.
Thank you for that, Councillor Armstrong, and I can throw to the Director of Infrastructure, and I believe that matter's been addressed. And would you like to speak to that, Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we have taken on board that recommendation, and prior to us putting this onto public exhibition, we will replace clause 10 in the current urban policy with the same wording that is in clause 9 in the rural vegetation policy. And then we will put both policies out on exhibition.
Thank you very much for that, Director. I hope that answers that question for Councillor Armstrong and it settles that matter. Yep.
That resolves that anomaly.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other questions in regard to this policy? If not, I'll put that policy. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to 21-142, which we've dealt with. Takes me to 21-143, the draft Hilltops Council Waste Management and Resource Recovery Strategy. Councillor, there's a report there, and Councillor Horton's moved it, seconded by Councillor Rolls. Thank you. Any questions in regard to it? Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 15 of the actual policy, I don't know what page it is of the whole document, dot point 3, it just says it's Hilltops Waste Management at a glance is the subheading 8.2, and Council's current waste management and resource recovery activities deliver services that are at a cost to council and the community. What does it mean at a cost to council and community and the community? Is that, yeah, could that be explained, please?
I'll throw to the Director of Infrastructure, please.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. The overall waste management that we have at Hilltops at the moment reflects that we are not doing a full cost recovery, and part of the consideration of the strategy going forward is that we do a full cost analysis, and that's one of the actions out of the implementation of the strategy, and that the intent is that we ensure that we are very clear on what the cost is to council and the community for delivering waste services in its full spectrum. And that will be part of developing a waste business management unit and identifying all the costs for waste services across Hilltops Council.
Thank you for that, Director. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Any other questions in regard to this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is one of the options, noting that Harden waste management or waste collection occurs in Harden by council staff and equipment. I assume the review will include going full contract and also council collecting waste in all the towns, or is that not being considered?
It's going to be considered as part of the development and implementation of the strategy. As the strategy says, this is a high-level document that says that's the direction. We do need to review all the costs. There's discrepancies between how we deliver waste services in Young and Boorowa compared to Harden, and we will certainly be looking at how we're delivering those services, as well as in the strategy we speak of starting to look at what the next contract period would look like, and whether we deliver the services ourselves or whether we have a single contract that covers the entire Hilltops area is part of the consideration for the strategy.
Thank you. I think that, look, the document has been a long time coming, 4 years or 5 years, and buried deep in it somewhere, it gets to the point that costs are going to have to rise. And I think it would be good if it said at the outset, it does say at the outset that the situation is no longer sustainable, but it really should say the more waste you collect in your household and deposit out your back door, the more you're going to pay. And that is something that notes that council can put in place policies and procedures that deal with that, but it really comes down to the householder and I guess the supermarkets. And I don't see anything in here at all that, and I imagine that goes through our regional forums, but it starts with the supermarkets. They package up food which are aimed at increasing prices on a lot of it, which creates more waste. But really, the more people buy itemised food that's individually wrapped, the more they consume it, the more we should charge them. And I really think that should be stated in the policy, that if you want to pay more for your food wrapping, we'll charge you more.
Thank you for that, Councillor. On that point, every meeting I went to in every village where this was mentioned and I spoke to, and I was present at them all, the first comment that I made was, I'm not too sure what the answer will be at the end of the day, but there's one thing I can assure them all, It was going to cost more, and the more waste they had, to your point, is the more it would cost. So it's about educating the public, I guess, is the way we need to look at it. And you would like to think in this day and age that the public would be pretty well educated on waste, but it's a big issue. Any further questions in regard to the policy before I put it? Councillor Armstrong, your hand up.
Yes, just in regard to the comments by the director regarding the development of costs for the services. On an annual basis, council's required to set a domestic waste management fee. The Act is pretty clear there. It's a cost recovery basis, so I would expect that process should only relate to the village garbage or waste disposal sites rather than the more urban waste disposal sites. And I'd just like some confirmation or otherwise of that.
To the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have 2 licensed landfill sites which are regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency. The intention of the strategy document is that we look at the entire waste services and waste delivery across Hilltops, and through community consultation, because this document is not in isolation. The document relies heavily on having a more robust community consultation as to the services required and therefore looking at those costs. Certainly the 2 licensed landfill sites we have cost carriage over, but the rest of the region, whether it be landfill sites or transfer stations, is something that will be fleshed out in the document as we progress the implementation of the strategy.
Thank you for that. Any further questions in regard to this? If not, I'll put that report. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 21.144 is the works report, councillors, and it's there in front of you, and the receiver note the information provided. Need a mover and a second. Moved Councillor Walker, thank you. Seconded Councillor Flannery.
Mr. Mayor, a few questions. As everyone is aware, it's been very wet and our roads have had an absolute pummelling as a result. And it's been very difficult for council as a result. There's, in relation to Heathfield Road, well, there's a few questions I've got. One is Heathfield Road. It was closed about a month ago. There's now work being performed on it. But could the director advise the work is drainage work about 3 kilometres to the north of the Young Road intersection, the Young Boorowa Road intersection. To me, the worst area of water damage is almost at the intersection. So is there any work planned there? Look, I've got a number of questions. The sealed road maintenance, it's really, I think we need more detail on what is exactly going on, not just a cut and paste each week of reactive patch, pothole patching. If we could get details of what work is occurring on what roads. I note on sealed road maintenance says reactive maintenance on signs and trees, and I said nothing's been done about trees on a number of roads. Reactive, it notes that drainage work on roads, and yet there's been water running down Moppity Road, runs down the verge, out around 2 signposts, to the point where council put water across roads up about a month ago. It would have taken as much time to get a shovel and dig out the debris off the side of the road as it took to put the sign up. But when you look at what we're doing, we're supposedly repairing the drainage on roads, so that's not that accurate. What else? It's got under Parks and Gardens Street, tree maintenance and pruning. Where and when is that occurring? Street planting, Hardin Murrumburra. Where and when will that be occurring? It's noted down between June and July, and we're past the 9th of July. I haven't observed it. Admittedly, it has been wet, but could we please get specific details on those items, and could I get a response on the work on Heathfield Road? Because, look, I think a good amount of money has been spent down where they've done the work, but I'm not so sure that they're doing it where it needed to happen.
Pass that on to the director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly provide additional information on those requests. There's Heathfield Road, and then there's more information on the sealed roads in Parks and Garden. We will provide that in the next council newsletter.
Thank you for that, Director. Any other questions in regard to the works report? If not, oh, sorry, Councillor Manchester, sorry.
Yeah, it's more of a comment through you, Mr. Mayor. The way this winter rain has come in, this is probably our wettest winter since the early 90s. And I just remember what happened to most of the roads, and it's happening now to most of our sewer roads. The gravel roads seem to be hanging in there, not too bad at the moment. But I think we need to do an assessment of all our sewer roads. I've travelled pretty well south of Young and east around that sector of the Shire, and there wouldn't be a sealed road that's not showing some form of deterioration because of wet weather. I know we're going out putting, patching the potholes and that, but I'm talking about major areas that are giving away. And one particular road which is close to town is Teeny Street, and I think the whole lot of that is going to fail in the next month if this rain keeps coming. At the moment, I'd say it's probably half to 3/4 of the road's gone, and I think the rest of it will go too. And that's just to name one. But the Back Creek Road, some of the new work that was done out there, there's patches of that it's not potholing, it's failing. And it's just the amount of water that's coming out of the sides of the hills in the low spots. All our roads are most of our sewer roads are in valleys. And you'll find that there are major sections that are failing. And if I go back to the 90s, I know Hardin Shire at the time cost, for the next couple of years, cost a small fortune to bring the roads back to back where they were prior to that wet 1 or 2 winters that we had back then. We haven't seen it. We've seen wet months here or wet week or two here and there, but we haven't seen continually wet for 2 or 3 months like we've got it now, and it's going to continue on. And I think we need to be on the front foot. We may have to do a rear budget assessment, and I think we also need to be on the front foot to put our hands out to the state and federal governments for funding to fix these roads, because they are a major asset, and will cost a lot of money to bring them back if they completely fail. And I don't know, you can't stop them from failing now. We've got to wait till it dries up and then see the end result. But we need to be on the front foot.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. And there's 3 points there I'd say that are definitely right. One is that we can't do anything about it, they're going to fail. The second one is that, yes, it'll cost a lot of money to fix them. And the third is you can bet your bottom dollar we will be advocating to the state for financial help to repair those works, and there's going to be significant works that need to be done. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And look, I'd just like to concur with Councillor Manchester. I know people get sick of hearing about it, but the road failure I've seen in the last couple of weeks is just extensive, and I think it is a major concern to us. It's our biggest budgetary item. People don't like hearing it, but we are a roads council, and we do need to get on the front foot. That is, most of our expenditure goes on to roads, unfortunately or otherwise. We have to look at different ways of getting funding. I am staggered by the times I drive around when it's actually raining and I see water running down the middle of the road. We have got to get our road construction so the water gets off the roads. And I take videos of it. We've really got to focus on road construction. Cunningar Road is a case in point. It's probably had $2 million spent on it in 5 years, and major sections are failing.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Yeah, it's going to be an issue, and we're all well aware of it. Yep, everyone agrees with that. Okay, any further questions in regard to that report? No. I'll put the report. All those in favour? Thank you. 21-145 is the action summary report, and the recommendation to note the action plan. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Horton's moved it. We're going to second Councillor Wallace. Thank you. Any questions or comments in regard to it? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just an item which I think has fallen off the report, and I don't know when it was, but for some significant period of time, we had the customer service policy on that action report, and it seems to have dropped off. I think we did a few actions, but it actually didn't amount to actually getting a policy. Now, we're nearly 5.5 years of this council, and we still don't have a policy. I find it staggering. I think it should be put back on, and we should get a policy forthwith. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Flannery, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Look, it was noted that the solar panel on council buildings was to come before this council meeting, and I know, obviously, with the work we've been doing, staff have been pushed and probably didn't have time to get it, but it is dating back to 2020 and funding for that. So could we get a report at next month's meeting? There are still items outstanding from 2017 and 18 that I think we've either got to just, can we get a report on them, or can we ditch them and just say beyond the capability or the time frame of the staff? But and the other one was it was a resolution, and I seek the director's or the general manager's advice on this. There was a council resolution in relation to BOOROWA Touch football and netball carnival that the carnival we funded out of loan funds. The last council meeting we resolved to fund it out of grants. Do we need a resolution to no longer fund? Aren't they inconsistent? Shouldn't there have been a resolution to remove it? Once a council resolution was adopted, that stands unless it's rescinded. Can I get advice on that? Or I think we all need advice on that. And the only other thing is there's no report here on the Bashams Lane watercourse that I requested about 3 meetings ago and was promised last meeting that would be this meeting.
So I'll just make comment there to staff. If those matters have been mentioned by Councillor Flannery, can they please be brought back to next month's council meeting? Or if they can't be, can we please have an explanation as to why? Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to ask one question. Can we please get the date of next month's council meeting plugged into action 21114 and resolution 21127?
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. And back to Councillor Wallace's point about the customer service policy that came to us several times and was sent back. I think that the easiest way around that, Councillor Wallace, would be to revert to the former Young Council's customer service policy and then have it adhered to. Would be a great step forward.
Couldn't agree more, Mr. Mayor. I think the former director had things well in hand in his day, and if we were to adopt that, I think it'd be very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Flannery.
Just, Mr. Mayor, could I get just wanting a response on the adoption of the loan funding versus then the re-adoption of the grant money? Don't we have to rescind one before we can adopt the other?
I'll hand to the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Through the loan funding was the motion put forward, and then instead of drawing down the loan funding, my understanding of the motion that was subsequent to that motion superseded that motion because it found the funding of sources as a replacement through the council financial assistance grants that were discussed. So it superseded it in its way because we didn't have to draw down a loan because there was no draw upon those funds or the need to draw down a loan. So it was funded from that budget line. So I believe it's consistent. One superseded the other. It wasn't necessarily a rescind. It was an identification of a source of funded to change that source of funding.
Thank you for that. And that goes back to the fact that it was flawed from the very, very start, in my humble opinion. Okay, councillors, any other questions in regard to that report? No, I'll put that report. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 21-146 is media releases and Office of Local Government circulars, and they're there, councillors, the recommendation. Moved, Councillor Manchester, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Walker, thank you. Questions? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 21-147, committee reports requiring action, and there's one there from the BOOROWA REDHILL Reserve Section 355 committee has been looked at. That's the only one. And there's a recommendation to receive and note that report, councillors. Can I get a move and a second to first, please?
Comment.
Councillor Armstrong. Seconded, Councillor Manchester. Thank you. Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Just thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regard to item number 4, I think it is there, the no dogs sign. If this is a dog-free area, then and there's a prohibition there, will council be able to enforce the prohibition?
That's a good question and been met with silence, councillor. So I'll just see. I'll hand to the General Manager.
As with any enforcement or consideration, obviously we have 2 ranges for the whole of Hilltops. So if it's noted that it is, if we're made aware that there is an issue, certainly we will investigate. However, we are restricted by the number of ranges that we have. So the simple answer is we're not. I don't believe we're going to identify that as a routine check to see how it's adhered to. But if we're alerted to an issue, we certainly will investigate it.
So it'll be an unenforced prohibition. Is that what you're telling me?
I'll pass to the Director of Planning.
The Redhill Reserve Committee, 355 Committee, are looking at restricting dogs in that area through the plan of management. Once it's identified in the plan of management, dogs won't be able to go in there, and the signposted will be noted as such. Prior to that, any public open space dogs must be on leashes, although the Companion Animals Act also recognises and acknowledges areas where dogs cannot go, even if they are on a leash, such as playgrounds, school grounds and other areas such as that. So we will be governed by the Companion Animals Act and then furthermore by the plan of management if it restricts dogs entering the area, which will be allow us to take action.
Does that mean that the sign shouldn't go up before the plan of management with that restriction is put in place?
That would be correct, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Director. Okay, that being said, any further questions? I'll put that report. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 21-148 was committee reports requiring no action. Receive and note. Moved, Councillor Horton. Seconder. Councillor Walker, thank you. Come on, councillors. Work with me. No questions in regard to that report, so I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Takes me over to questions with notice, which there is nil. Notice of motions which are nil. And that will bring us to moving into close. Could I have a move and a second for council to move into confidential? Thank you. Moved, Councillor Flannery. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. Thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The councillors in confidential made various resolutions. The first being item 21-150, award of contract RFT 579 of 2021, sewer main replacement in Young A line. It was resolved that A, receive and note the report on RFT 579 of 2021 sewer main replacement in Young-A line. B, award contract 579 of 221 sewer main replacement in Young A line to the successful tenderer. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding of this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. The second report that was looked at was 21-151 21/151, award of contract RFT 583 of 2021 Bundarbo Bridge replacement. It was resolved that Council receive and note the report on RFT 583 of 2021 Bundarbo Bridge replacement. B, award the contract 583 of 2021 Bundarbo Bridge replacement to the successful tenderer. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets and contingencies. The third report, being 21/152, award of contract RFT 580 of 2021 water main upgrades in Young. It was resolved that A, receive and note the report on RFT 580 of 2021 water main upgrades in Young. B, award contract number 580 of 2021 water main upgrades in Young to the successful tenderer to the value of said tender. C, approve the budget variance to be funded from the Young Water Supply Reserve Fund. And D, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. And the final matter that was considered by Council was report 21/153, preferred supplier panel for RFT 571 of 2021 road stabilisation, resealing and related materials. And it was resolved that Council A, receive and note the report on RFT 571 of 2021 road stabilisation, resealing and related material. And B, endorse the appointment of the successful suppliers to form the road stabilisation, resealing and related materials panel for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 works programs across categories 1 through to 6. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the appointment of this panel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and thank you, staff, and thank you, councillors, for your attendance. And on that point, at 6, I've lost my clock. 6:31, we'll call the meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone.